as I say, Fairtrade is something that the Co-operative Party and the UK co-operative movement has held dear, been a champion of, and been a staunch supporter of for many, many years. Fairtrade Fortnight is a fantastic opportunity for us to bring that together and have that focus as the theme is, but it is something which our movement should be proud of, should be respectful and of in that past tense, and look back with pride about the things that we've achieved, but also stay hugely ambitious for the future of fair trade as well, the future of our fair trade movement. Many of you on the call will have been involved in establishing fair trade towns, villages, cities, areas, and been part and parcel of the push for fair trade right across our elected representative, our members, but also all the networks that you're involved in as well. And I think that for me, and it'd be really interesting to get the presentation from Orla at the minute, is that not only international cooperation being so vital, so critical, so intrinsic to what is needed, both in terms of our current circumstance, in terms of climate change, in terms of many of the international challenges that we've faced in recent years, COVID and others. Fair trade fits right into that. Fair trade fits right into that area of our work. And I think that there is a renewed need for us as a movement, as a party, to be that frontline champion for fair trade. We've seen some challenges to fair trade in recent years. We've seen companies decide that they're better able to distinguish for fair trade than the Fair Trade Foundation and the International Fair Trade Foundation themselves. In recent times, you will have seen the Co-operative Party campaign in areas such as when KitKat decided, Nestle, owners of KitKat, decided to pull fair trade from its products. 25,000 of you and me stood together, made our voices very well heard through that campaign. That's necessary. It's necessary then. It will be necessary again in the future when I see some of the other chains as well, potentially Starbucks starting to move away from the fair trade mark into other areas as well. I think that it's an intrinsic and important responsibility on ourselves in the party and ourselves in the cooperative movement to be the staunchest of allies of fair trade. However, that being said, and I look forward to the discussion which comes after, as I absolutely say, we absolute benefit for our discussion and for our deliberations, for our knowledge, to have Orla Waters with us, a policy development, food policy development manager at the cooperative group. Orla has done plenty of work with the party over the last period of time. I know has been involved in some of the most interesting thinking coming from the group, whether that's that link between climate change and fair trade, something which I know Orla was central to in the last 6 months as well. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, Orla, hearing from the group as well, because ultimately the cooperative group, like many of our retail societies, are some of the biggest providers, some of the biggest supporters of fair trade in this country. So a great opportunity to hear some of your views, Orla, some of the work of the cooperative group as well. So without further ado, over to yourself. I believe we've managed to make you the co-host in that interim. So I understand that there are some slides that you wish to share if you want to get into that. But Orla, you're very welcome here in the Co-op Party tonight and into the future as well. Orla, over to you.
Thanks so much, Joe. That's such a nice overview. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully it all works smoothly. Or not.
If you potentially just hit the if you hit that presentation button at the bottom there, Orla, you should be good to go, but you've stopped sharing the screen just at the minute. Now, this is something that I do on an absolutely daily basis. I don't think I've managed to share a screen in the last 3 years. So there we go. You're doing much better than me, Orla. If you just press that presentation, that should bring us up to speed. And if not, you may wish to use the presentation you've got.
Hang on, give me a second. Share sound. Share. Okay. Right. Hopefully that's up on the screen. Let me know. Give me a shout if not. So yeah, I'm locked out of the chat now. So I've entrusted Izzy to kind of be my helper and moderate the chat. But yeah, thanks so much, Joe, for introducing me and inviting me along. It's really nice to be here. So like Joe said, my name is Orla. I'm the Policy Development and Planning Manager at the Co-op Group. And as you will well know, it's Fairtrade Fortnight. So it's such a pleasure to be speaking to you during these 2 weeks, which are really important to us at the Co-op. So I wanted to start off with a bit of a question. Like I said, I'm locked out of the chat, but I just want it to be a two-way conversation between us, not just me speaking to you. I want it to be a kind of a joint conversation. So I really want to know what fair trade means to you as an individual. Do you think you know what the fair trade mark stands for? And just kind of really quick, even if you don't write it in the chat, if you just have a think about what fair trade means to you. And then I'm sure if you don't know much about fair trade, you'll know lots more about it at the end of this presentation. So for us at the Co-op, we believe fair trade is the gold standard. It's more than a certification, it's a movement for trade justice. It ensures producers are empowered by trade and not aid. And for shoppers, the fair trade mark guarantees high quality, ethically produced products. And the kind of the four key things that we always talk about with fair trade is only fair trade pays producers fairly, gives producers a say in their future, and does the right thing by both people and the planet, and strengthens communities around the world. So at the Co-op, fair trade, as you all well know, is absolutely core to our vision. We've championed fair trade for well over 26 years. We think fair trade is a much better way of doing business and pays producers a fair price, doing the right thing by people on the planet. You might not know this, but we are really proud to be the UK's largest convenience seller of fair trade products, and we've delivered lots of fair trade firsts over the years, many of which are on the screen there. And this includes being the first UK retailer to stock fair trade products in all stores in 1998. So when you go to a Co-op store, 100% of Co-op tea, coffee, bananas, cocoa, bagged sugar, and African roses are fair trade. So we're doing a lot of the hard work for you when you go in and choose some tea or coffee. And also as well, Co-op are the largest seller of fair trade wine in the world. And this fortnight, we're really thrilled that we've moved all of our South African wine. So that's our Co-op South African wine, but also our branded South African wine all over to fair trade, which means more producers are receiving the fair trade minimum price and premium than ever before. So like I said, Fairtrade Fortnight is really important to us at the Co-op. It's 2 weeks where we share the stories of our fair trade producers, people across the world who grow our food and drink and who are often exploited and underpaid. This year we are campaigning for climate justice and highlighting the growing challenges that climate change brings to farmers and workers in Co-op supply chains, especially as COP26 at the end of last year didn't deliver the change that we needed to see to tackle the climate crisis and help protect the most vulnerable producers. So during Fairtrade Fortnight, we really aim to celebrate producer voice by telling the stories of producers and how fair trade has made a difference to their lives. And we use our platform as a leading UK retailer and a fair trade pioneer to really elevate these stories and educate our customers, members and colleagues on the difference that making a fair trade choice can make. So hopefully you will have seen a couple of these things flying around if you're going into your local store, or you follow us on our social media channels, or you pick up our magazine. Hopefully you've seen some of our comms that have gone out. We work really hard on these, and getting the producer voice front and centre is really critical to us at the Co-op. So for the last few years, we have focused our fair trade campaigns on climate justice. And the climate crisis is the biggest threat to the livelihoods of millions of small-scale farmers and agricultural workers in low-income countries. Farmers are on the front line of the climate crisis, and many still can't afford basic human rights like sending their children to school or putting food on their plates, which is completely unfair and unjust. Fairtrade is the only certification that is equally managed and owned by producers for producers, and works directly with producers to strengthen environmental and climate protection, to provide resources, training and knowledge so they can face climate challenges and earn better incomes. Fairtrade ensures farmers receive fairer prices so they can improve their livelihoods and are better able to face climate challenges and protect the environment. So I'm going to show you a video now, fingers crossed the sound will work, so you can hear directly from our Fairtrade producers in Kenya and hear firsthand their experience of the climate crisis.
For many of us, coffee has become an essential part of our lives. But for the people who produce it, life can hang in the balance due to market fluctuations and increasingly the climate. Smallholder farmers in the global south, like those at Mutira, are already deeply affected by climate change. But Fairtrade is making a huge difference, offering a guaranteed minimum price and premium, so they are better equipped to protect the environment they farm in.
Last week it rained, so there were hailstones. We never used to have them. Co-operative in Fairtrade trained us about climate change. We were given good coffee varieties which were resistant to these extreme hot and extreme cold. Most farmers which are getting losses for the last 15 years, but us, through being trained by Fairtrade and Co-operative, our production are increasing rather than going down. I thank the Fairtrade and Co-operative. Prices are good. I'm getting good income. I'm living a comfortable life through coffee farming.
That's why at Co-op, all our own label coffee has been Fairtrade since 2003. And wherever we use coffee as an ingredient, our producers benefit. The climate crisis is happening now for coffee farmers. As it decreases yields, farmers are often forced to deforest more land to survive. Without action, as much as half the land used for coffee won't be suitable for farming by 2050. Co-op is playing our part to tackle the climate crisis and to reach net zero by 2040. Partnering with Fairtrade Africa, climate justice is at the heart of our plan, putting people and planet first and empowering producers to tackle climate change to secure their future livelihoods.
So we'd like to call all of you, we come together and help us tackle this climate change because of our generation and more generations which are coming. Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed that video, and again I'm just going to ask you to have a think about if there was anything in that video that surprised you, and if you knew that key commodities like coffee are at risk of complete devastation from climate change. You know, we published some research last year calling this out, but like it said in the video, it's expected that because of climate change, the total area of land suitable for growing coffee will have halved by 2050. So, you know, in just over 25 years' time, half of the area that we grow coffee in now won't be available. And as a result of this, at the moment, farmers are being forced to move to higher altitudes and grow their coffee in different areas, which is, of course, having a lot of knock-on effects. So it's causing mass deforestation, increased extreme weather patterns, mudslides, that's damaging infrastructure, houses, causing fatalities, and overall just devastating the livelihoods of people who are reliant on coffee farming. So it is very serious, and it's completely it's a complete reality for our farmers in the global south. They're already seeing the effects of climate change. So just a bit around what we've done at the Co-op to kind of address some of these issues. So last year we launched our 10-point climate plan, our pathway to achieving net zero by 2040, which is 10 years ahead of international agreements. And our plan is grounded by 3 key principles. So we'll follow the science, so making sure it's absolutely science-led. We'll work for a fair transition, so making sure no one gets left behind, and we'll cooperate to drive systems change, which is the most important for this group, because it's all around cooperating and campaigning. So just to allude to that, so point 7 of our climate plan outlines how we will support producers in Co-op's supply chain in adapting to climate change realities and becoming more climate resilient. Point 8 of our climate plan outlines how we'll campaign for climate action and lobby government to press for systemic change. So helping our fair trade producers adapt to the climate crisis is absolutely critical to our work at the Co-op. We pledged to stand side by side with Fairtrade as a leading investor and partner in Fairtrade Africa's climate strategy. Our new partnership will drive forward their climate strategy over the next 3 years, ensuring a farmer-centric approach to adapting and mitigating the very worst effects of climate change and channeling funding to the areas of greatest need. We're really proud to have led the way by investing almost 400 grand in Fairtrade Africa's climate strategy, founding the Fairtrade Alliance for Climate Smart Supply Chains in Africa, a bit of a mouthful, which will be working with 12 at-risk producer organisations in tea, coffee and flour supply chains in sub-Saharan Africa, which is a chance to make meaningful action on climate change. This will ensure the security of their own livelihoods and environments, as well as protect the future of key commodities for the long-term benefit of us all. And the partnership will support over 16,000 smallholder farmers and workers, as well as directly impacting over 67,000 beneficiaries. Co-op is really leading the call on climate justice, and in 2021 we launched our climate justice campaign, calling on government, businesses and citizens to step up and invest in climate action. Co-op launched the Climate Justice for People and Planet report, which specifically called on governments and businesses to invest in more sustainable economies in a way that's fair to everyone across the supply chain. We called on governments to return to the world-leading commitment of 0.7% gross national income spend on international aid and development without delay. This spend is absolutely vital to the survival of those international communities that are the most vulnerable. And really unfortunately, I'm sure many of you know, it was cut last year to 0.5% due to the pandemic. So we're still campaigning on that and hopefully getting that reinstated as soon as possible, because it might not sound like a lot, 0.2%, but it's in the £1 billion number of money that's not going to the most vulnerable communities in the world. We also campaigned on asking to prioritise the 100 billion international climate finance commitment at COP26, and that is a number which the wealthiest companies in the wealthiest countries in the world are committed to, but at the moment they're continuing to fall short of their promises. So we're campaigning to make sure that that is definitely is put in action. And then finally, we asked government to take steps to ensure all businesses step up and invest in climate resilience and a just transition. So businesses with global supply chains like ourselves at the Co-op must ensure they are working towards a just transition, so no community is left behind in the climate crisis. I'm sure many of you would have seen all the action that went on at COP26. So in November, it's the UN Climate Change Conference that was in Glasgow, and it was aiming to address the climate crisis. So as part of our climate justice campaign, Co-op CEOs Steve Morels and Joe Whitfield spoke to world leaders and businesses alongside fair trade producers to provide industry perspectives on the importance that global farming communities play in tackling climate change. In October as well, we signed up to Fairtrade's Climate Pledge alongside leading Fairtrade business partners around the world, committing to do more to protect and invest in the resilience of the green transition of global supply chains. The business pledge followed the publication of an open letter and petition from representatives of 1.8 million Fairtrade farmers and workers across Africa, Asia, Latin America and the Caribbean. The letter warned that governments that are their decisions are deepening poverty and are threatening farmers' livelihoods and global food supplies. So that's what we did in the run up to Fortnight, in the run up to COP26 last year. But this year it's Fairtrade Fortnight now. We're asking you to get involved and ask the government to deliver on these climate commitments. So at COP26, the UK government committed to deliver new funding for farmers and workers in low-income countries that are facing the worst impacts of the climate crisis. But 4 months on and little has changed. It's time to really challenge our politicians to deliver on those promises as soon as possible. Like I said, it's the climate change realities for our producers in the global south are here now. They're not here in 5-10 years time. We really need them to step up and to prioritise this. So the people who are growing our food and goods are already doing amazing work to take on the climate crisis, in partnership with certifications like Fairtrade. So this includes sharing climate-friendly farming practices across continents through Fairtrade producer networks. They have huge tree planting initiatives on Fairtrade farms, and they protect local biodiversity with Fairtrade standards. Fairtrade climate academies have brought whole communities together to share knowledge about sustainable farming techniques. So if we invest in this expertise, farmers can scale up this work and make an even bigger difference in the fight against climate change. So it's time to ask our MPs to find out how and when farmers on the front line of the climate crisis can access these promised funds. With the power and the money to invest in a sustainable future, we know Fairtrade farmers and workers will take a lead on choosing the fairer future for people and planet that we all want. So there's a link there, and I can share it in the chat afterwards, which takes you directly to a really easy resource. It's a kind of a form where you can put in your name, an email and postcode, and it will pre-populate a letter straight to your MP in your local constituency. It couldn't be any easier to send them a letter, and you can even ask for a meeting if that's something you're interested in, and really get this issue on their radar. So how else can you get involved? Fairtrade Fortnight. It is still Fairtrade Fortnight. It's definitely not too late to get involved. So one of the main things I talk about to people is choose Fairtrade, make a switch to a Fairtrade product. You know, it's a small thing to do, but it makes a huge impact to producers. It's incredible what the Fairtrade certification does for people who are producing our food. So I've just flashed up on screen some of the promotions we've got on at the moment for Fairtrade Fortnight. So they're still in store this week. So hopefully you're all a co-op member and you can run down and get some of these promotions. So we have a fresh free promotion on Fairtrade products. So you can get grapes, baby plum tomatoes and oranges in that deal. We have an offer on our Fairtrade small bananas. And then we have lots of delicious offers on our chocolate. So you can get deals on our irresistible block chocolate and Tony's chocolate only and green and blacks. And we also do a lot of work with Ben & Jerry's. They are a really leading Fairtrade brand. So we've got an exclusive Ben & Jerry's product, which is a banoffee pie flavour, which is also on an introductory price promo. Then we have a couple of different products from Ben & Jerry's, which you can see in store. And then, like I said, if you are a member, we do have a member deal on at the moment on our Fairtrade Sauvignon Blanc. It's £4.50 at the moment, which is, I think, £2 off. So it's a really good deal. And there's loads more in store, loads of wine. So yeah, go pick up something, and you're helping a producer just by making that choice. Fairtrade is all about sharing those stories of Fairtrade producers and bringing awareness to the people behind our Fairtrade products. So hopefully some of you have social accounts, or you can share, like on the screen, you can share those hashtags, hashtag Fairtrade Fortnight, choose Fairtrade, and tag Co-op, tag Fairtrade UK. Let us know you're talking about it, let us know what you're doing. As well, if you don't have social media, talk about it with your friends and family. There's loads of resources on our website and on the Fairtrade Foundation website. talk about the difference that Fairtrade makes. And, you know, it's just having that conversation, keeping it front of mind, that really keeps the certification alive. Campaigning. So this is really important for this group. So as you know, campaigning is absolutely critical to create any change at scale. At Co-op, we do have a campaigning resource page, which is packed with tools to help you campaign for fair trade, and with lots of information to help you, including the Write to Your MP link, which, as you can see on the screen there, couldn't be easier. I did it earlier in the week. Put in your name, put in your last name, email and postcode, send to your MP. It's really easy, brilliant. And finally, in terms of how you can get involved, join an event. I'm sure in your local communities there's lots of events going on around Fairtrade Fortnight, but at the Co-op we still have some events going on this week. So on Thursday, on tomorrow night, we have a special wine tasting event and celebration of Fairtrade wine. And this will be hosted by Co-op's Fairtrade manager, and we'll have our Co-op a Fairtrade wine buyer on the call as well as a Fairtrade producer who's dialing in, and the head of responsible business at the Fairtrade Foundation. So you're still able to sign up to that, and it'll be a really interesting session to learn more about Fairtrade, how delicious the wine is, obviously, but also a bit around the product, and hearing directly from a producer is one of the most amazing things that you can do when it's Fairtrade Fortnight. And then on Friday, if you're a little bit hungover from the wine tasting, we have a Fairtrade coffee masterclass, and this is hosted by our Fairtrade coffee developer at the Co-op and our Fairtrade supplier, and that'll be teaching you how to taste your Fairtrade coffee, and do some pairings and things like that. So hopefully some of those are of interest to you, and we can get those links out to you. And it's just on Eventbrite, you sign up and then you get all the details that should be on Zoom. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Fairtrade and what we're doing at the Co-op, but I just wanted to leave you with this video, which I absolutely love. You might have seen it before, but it just really shows how important Fairtrade is, and you get to hear directly from the producers, which is much better than hearing directly from me. So yeah, enjoy.
Moi, j'aime Fairtrade. I love Fairtrade so much. Fairtrade, c'est le seul label qui garantit un prix minimum au producteur. Un minimum que le producteur doit avoir pour vivre décemment.
In Belize, Fairtrade has changed a lot of lives. By purchasing Fairtrade sugar in the UK, you are helping the families, almost 40,000 persons directly involved in the sugar industry, and all of them are benefiting from your purchase.
We have been able to provide scholarship to the wards of our workers. We have been able to provide schools to the communities, and children now are not schooling under trees.
Au niveau personnel, je peux dire que ça m'a apporté beaucoup de choses parce que je fais partie des étudiantes de l'école de leadership des femmes qui m'ont permis de renforcer mes capacités professionnelles.
Si je ne participais pas à cette école, j'allais regretter. Je vois ma vie a été transformée grâce à Fairtrade Africa. Maintenant, je suis fière et j'en ai su que plus tard, je pourrai aider d'autres femmes à faire la même chose que moi.
Every stem that we grow here and we are sold in the Co-op stores there in UK is such a big help to us because it changes our lives. Building of classrooms, medical facilities, training the maternity nurses in the local hospitals.
Through that placement, I can now resuscitate a newborn. I believe I save a life every day. So I'm proud of that.
Pour les clients qui achètent le produit Fairtrade, je leur dis merci de penser à nous. Penser à nous, les producteurs, c'est en quelque sorte sauver la planète et sauver les hommes qui nous vivent.
So
Lovely.
oh, it's a great video, isn't it? I hopefully you enjoyed it. I always get goosebumps when I see it. Yeah, it's just brilliant to hear directly from Fairtrade producers. And yeah, like I said, Fairtrade makes a massive difference to producers, and definitely in upskilling them on the challenges of climate change. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. And those videos are all available on our Co-op YouTube as well if you want to watch those again. So thank you so much for having me this evening. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you all, and thank you for championing fair trade. So yeah, that's it from me, and I'll pause then, stop sharing, and then hopefully I can answer some of your questions.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for that, Orla. That was really comprehensive, really interesting overview of not just what the group's doing. I think you got in some fantastic adverts for some of the fantastic products that you have in Fairtrade as well, but also some of the link there with climate change as well, not just for this year, but going forward within the Fairtrade movement as well. So look, over to yourselves, over to ourselves, to have that discussion, share some reflections, what it means for yourself, some of the things that you may have done to support fair trade over the years, and indeed any of the aspects from Orla for some of the issues that herself and the group and the wider cooperative movement will be campaigning on through this fortnight and beyond. So making sure that you're putting your hand up into the chat in order so that I can see you into your virtual hand, if that's all right, forgive me, a virtual hand, if that's okay. I'll bring in colleagues when I'm able, and also in the chat. That's what I was going to say, making sure you put it in the chat, and I'll bring in both of you, both versions as we go on. I've got a couple of people indicating, so I'm going to go first to Saxon. Saxon Spence. Hi Saxon, I hope you're very well. I hope all's well in the southwest. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I represent the Cooperative Party on the Exeter and the Devon Fairtrade steering groups, and we do work hard, and we are delighted to see that there was a broadcast in the shop about fair trade, because sometimes we felt that managers don't always promote fair trade. But at our last meeting, we had the person in charge of the pioneers in Devon. And what I'd like to ask is whether there oughtn't to be more connection between pioneers and local co-op parties, because we can promote, as I do, the co-op group or Midlands or wherever you are, but we do need that information, and we would like to invite the pioneers to some of our functions. So can we have better contact with our local pioneers, please?
Lovely stuff. Thank you for that, Saxon. That may be one I'm well in a good spot to help with, as well as Orla. Just before we come to that, I'm going to bring in Andrew as well, so I won't lose that, Saxon. I'll come back to that, but Andrew, over to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. That's great. I'd actually like to comment on that. But first of all, I want to say that I was involved in the 1970s with the Leeds Industrial Cooperative Society, trying to introduce the idea of fair trade. And I'm incredibly pleased at how the co-op has picked this up and made it such a kind of central part of what it's doing. So that's terrific. This week, I'm in touch with the member pioneer in the local co-op. We have two societies in adjacent villages, and both of them we're getting involved with the local church, which is running a special fair trade event, which they do every year, and everybody's coming together around that, from the two co-ops, the co-op party and the churches. So that's all terrific. My question is, I worked for a long time in agriculture in Bangladesh, and there are products, fair trade products, which can be used for packaging, particularly jute, for example. And that would fit in really well with the current co-op campaign for recycling of recycling of soft plastic, which we're promoting locally. And I wonder whether we couldn't give more attention to packaging using fair trade products, which are also biodegradable and natural and environmental. And I really would like to see a bit more focus on that. Thank you.
Lovely stuff. So if you want to make sure you're like Saxon and Andrew and contributing in this discussion, make sure that you put up the virtual hand so I can make sure I bring you in as I just have done with Saxon and Andrew, and making sure you have that opportunity to put into the chat as well. So whilst yourselves are doing that, Orla, any reflections just maybe on the last question and anything to do with the way in which you've made, I think Andrew's point there about the centrality of fair trade within the Co-op group is a really interesting one, and you touched on it. You talked about comms. I think Saxon talked about hearing broadcast within stores as well. I certainly heard one in the Co-op I was in, the Co-op branch I was in just today as well. So a little bit about that sort of journey to the centrality to the group, reflections on any work with the member pioneers, and perhaps I can pick up the very specific piece about how the party and pioneers can work together as well. So Orla, over to you in the first instance, and then I'll pick up coming in as well. So over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, they're really great questions. Thanks so much. Yeah, I guess for us at the Co-op, we've always been a fair trade pioneer. It's always been really important to us. It harks back to our roots as a cooperative. Probably similar for the Co-op party as well. It's it's all about people, and people is absolutely core to what we do at the Co-op. So yeah, it's really important to us. I flashed up that slide at the beginning, which is kind of our timeline of fair trade moves, and we've just gone from strength to strength really, and we have a really dedicated teams internally, fair trade teams, and also our buyers and suppliers are so passionate about fair trade and constantly thinking about making conversions or how they can sell more and kind of strategies. So it's a massive team effort. We work really closely with Fairtrade Foundation. We've got a great relationship with them. But it's I would say it's kind of down to kind of the individuals within the Co-op who are pushing it and are being pioneers and really pushing the agenda. So it's great. It's great to work on fair trade. It's such a great certification. In terms of the member pioneer activity, I think that's a really good point, Saxon. And I know from speaking to our member pioneers about Fairtrade Fortnight, but in general as well, they're so keen to get out into the community and speak to like-minded people and groups. So I know Joe's probably going to pick up on some of the actual specifics, but if there was anything that I could provide, kind of some sort of a list of member pioneers or something which would be useful for you all to kind of link up with those people, we can certainly help you do that, because yeah, absolutely, I think if we're not doing that, it's a really missed opportunity. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. And then on the packaging as well, I think yeah, it's really interesting, Andrew, and it's only last week I saw something in the news around new forms of like biodegradable packaging and spray-on packaging on fruit. I think we're constantly having a look at packaging, and like I said, the teams internally are super committed to fair trade especially, and looking at how we can tie these things together. But just as well, we're always kind of we're very conscious of the current environment that we're operating in around packaging. So with our 100% recycling on the soft film, that is really trying to fill a gap where there isn't already 100% support from councils and local councils. So there are a lot of challenges, and we're regularly speaking to government officials and councils with the intention of kind of working through some of those gaps and making sure we're getting a circular system for everyone. But a lot of the kind of biodegradable packaging, the newer packaging, sometimes has challenges just because it's not easy for a consumer to understand if it's meant to be recycled, if it's meant to be put in the compost, or sometimes it's quite a lot of different messaging and it's not unified. So we're constantly, to answer your question, we're constantly looking at new forms of packaging innovation. I'll certainly bring it up with the packaging manager in my team and see if he's got anything kind of in the back of his mind on this. But as well, just so you know, we're constantly working with government and different councils to make sure we've got a unified approach with packaging, so we're not creating more problems, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question.
But got a thumbs up, so there we go. I think that must be the case. So thank you for that, Orla. And Callie and Mary, I'm going to be bringing you in very soon, so stand ready. I want to just make sure that I pick up on Saxon's point just before I do that, Callie, and then Mary, and others who wish to come into the chat. Make sure you're indicating with your virtual hand onto the participants or into the chat. But just on that point, Saxon, about member pioneers, and just for those on the call who may not be necessarily as aware as others of the member pioneers within the cooperative group, like other retail cooperative societies, the group have a large number in terms of the group's obvious size for people out in the community, but pioneering for the group in its very many campaigns and guises, whether that is on food justice, where we've probably done most of our work with the member pioneers in recent times, but also on community response to COVID as well, through some of the darkest moments of our last couple of years. Now we have two bits in the way in which that works. So I have presented, I think, for the last 2 years to all the member pioneers together, and I talk about what the party does, how we do it, and make sure that they're as aware as we can be about our work, our campaigns, and the work the Co-op Party does. So that's a really good opportunity for us to input into the pioneers' view, but also, and Orla's right in that we've had opportunity to make sure that the pioneers in particular areas are put in touch with our local parties. I think it's a really important piece. We've also done it with councillors as well around the country. So that's something, Saxon, in your area, I'll pick up, make sure that the link is made between the pioneers in your party council area or your community, and make sure that they are able, you know, to hopefully come along to meetings and input into the work of your local party. I think that, so we've had some great successes, isn't it? We've had, I think this time round, I want to say that 3 of the member pioneers are coming through to be new Labour and Cooperative Council candidates this time round. So there is clearly a link, there's clearly an important synergy between our work in every community and indeed the Co-op group in this case and their member pioneers. So hopefully that helps give a little bit of background about some of the things that we're doing to make sure that we're linked up. One of the key areas that the group often advertise for new pioneers is in the Pioneer magazine as well. So do have a look for that if you fancy getting involved. Now, with that being said, Callie, coming to you. So over to you, Callie, for question and discussion.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm Callie. I'm based in Rugby, and I'm a Co-op Party member. Yeah, I just obviously I know Orla mentioned the Co-op's climate, the 10-point plan and the report. I just wanted to know how effective the campaigns to promote fair trade have been. I mean, when it comes to whatever as a proportion of the merchandise that the food that you sell, how much of the food that you sell is fair trade, because obviously that's how you can find out whether these promotions are effective. And again, I'll try and read a bit myself, but if you could tell us a bit about the supply chain, where is the packaging taking place? Is it in the country of origin? Is it when it arrives in the UK? Just to understand a little bit more about that. And my final question is, do the farmers have collectives? How do they operate? Or they operate as small farms or whatever? A little bit about these issues, because it's good to know a bit more. Thank you.
Lovely stuff, and that's what Cooperation Live is all about, Kelly. That's about sharing our knowledge, sharing our ability to be the cooperative champions that we want to be right around the country. You snuck in just 3 questions. I think that's very restrained of you. So I'm going to bring in Mary, and then I'm going to go to Orla to pick up on the points, the really important points you've made. Mary.
Yeah, this may have been covered, but just about packaging. We may be unusual because we don't have a car. We always shop on foot, and we favour, we're in a place where there are small shops, often run by ethnic minorities. And so, and we pick up the fruit and the vegetable from those without any packaging. If we do go to a supermarket, the there's one very nearby, which is Sainsbury's. You have to go a bit further away for the Co-op. So to get any serious shopping, I would favour the Co-op. But any vegetables, any fruit and vegetables in there, they've got a lot of packaging. And I understand that it's about handling it. But, you know, I don't want to buy it just because of the packaging. So I just want to feed that back. In case it, but you know, the point that is that the other lady asked about, what, you know, where is that done? It would be interesting to hear about.
Thank you for that, Mary, as well. And I think that it's about that link with climate justice as well. And I can see why we're becoming, we've had those contributions about packaging as well. Although there may be further information about the work the group does in packaging that you want to give for us, and we can email out to all of yourselves on the call as well after this event, maybe tomorrow, just to give you a bit of further information if that helps as well. But just before I bring you in, Orla, to come on to those points, if there are other friends who wish to come in, this is your opportunity to do so. Do make sure that your hand is visible, that virtual hand is visible. But I'll be keeping an eye on that. While Orla, over to you, just on those the two contributions from Mary and Callie.
Thank you very much, both. So in terms, just answering your first question, Callie, around how effective are the campaigns, which is a really good question. We see at the Co-op a huge uplift in sales with Fairtrade promotions, and we do a lot of like tracking of the campaign, so people's understanding of the campaign and kind of the core issues we're trying to talk about. So we do a lot of like social listening and feedbacks, and overall we get a really good feedback, and the promotions are certainly effective in driving sales for Fairtrade. As a wider point around Fairtrade and the Co-op, and in the Kantar data that we use, our Fairtrade sales are up overall. So yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but I do know that it's up overall, and I know that our promotions are really effective, and we sell loads of Fairtrade products, especially during Fortnight, but throughout the year as well. Around the supply chain piece, it's a kind of a case-by-case basis, so I can't say one size fits all, but we have very complex supply chains, as you can imagine. Most of our Fairtrade ingredients are sourced in the global south, in places like sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya, Ghana, places like that, and they would normally sometimes are packaged on site, and that gets sent over to us. Sometimes, depending on what it is, sometimes if it's something like our African roses, they're often sent over and then wrapped in nearer to store in Co-op packaging and then brought into store. So it's a bit of a mixture, but what I do know is that we do a lot of life cycle analysis assessment, which is on the overall greenhouse gas emissions from sourcing products such as flowers, and interestingly, we're kind of always looking at like the difference between different suppliers, but with something like our flowers, we know that the ones that we source from Kenya in Africa are a lower greenhouse gas footprint than something produced in Europe, purely because of the amount of natural sun and resources they're getting in Africa versus something more artificial in Europe. So we're constantly looking at different life cycle assessments around packaging and making sure that we're using the most environmentally friendly stuff that we can. And then in terms of the farming, how that's made up, how the community is made up. So most of our fair trade farmers are smallhold farmers, which means they are really just kind of families, groups of communities who are farming. But then through fair trade, they are part of a wider collective, and they could be part of, say, Fairtrade Africa or a fair trade producer network, and they and that's how they can kind of share knowledge, and they're part of like a bigger union, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely smallholder farming, which is, you know, why we're really passionate about it, because so many of these fair trade farmers, they're completely dependent on us in the UK buying their products, and especially us at the co-op buying those products and selling them. So really, they are just kind of small families and communities who are, you know, completely dependent on us. Around the packaging front, I can certainly share some info, Joe. A lot of it would be on our website. But yeah, totally hear the concerns about packaging. Like I said, we're constantly looking at different options, loose packaging, looking at different products which we feel really need plastic packaging, in terms of other issues like food waste, and kind of handling, all these kind of issues. Although it might seem simple, it is a very complex issue, and we're always looking at the life cycle assessment and the overall greenhouse gas footprint, and making sure that we're kind of being as responsible as possible. Hopefully that answers your question.
Lovely stuff. Thank you for that, Orla. We've got two friends who are coming in right at the death of this event, but I do want to give both Mike and Malcolm a quick opportunity to input as well. Mike, Malcolm, if you're able to keep contributions tight, and that would be much appreciated from ourselves. But I do want to get you in. So, Mike, over to you first.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, tomorrow actually sees the launch in Norwich of a campaign to turn Norwich into a fair trade city. So I'm really looking forward to that. But my real question is that is it possible, Orla, I know time is tight, just to give us a flavour of the kinds of measures and support that you can give to producers across the world, really, in relation to growing sustainably, particularly addressing the problems of climate change?
Thank you for that, Mike. And Malcolm.
Yeah, very quick one. Thank you all very much. Very interesting. I like the Colombian coffee beans, and I was trying to find out how to recycle the bag, but you can't. It says on it, do not recycle, which is a bit of a worry. And I understand why. It's a very good packaging, but there is no way to recycle it. So unfortunately, it goes into my local rubbish dump, I suppose, in the ground, which is a bit sad. Anyway.
Thank you, Malcolm, for that. A couple of continuation of that discussion around packaging as well, Orla, but also fantastic news about Norwich there, Mike. And Orla, on those couple of points, I think you've talked a little bit about that packaging, and we'll get that information around as well. But yeah, from any reflections from Mike and Malcolm.
Yeah, so on the measures and support, so one of the reasons we're so passionate about fair trade is it's a certification which helps people and planet. It really is both. And you know, I'm sure you're all aware around how important fair trade is for guaranteeing a fair price for producers, but it's also does a lot of significant work in making sure that producers are trained, and making sure they're really aware of how they can farm sustainably and adapt and mitigate some of the worst impacts of the climate crisis. So short answer, but it's one of the biggest reasons we support fair trade, because you know, I'm sure lots of you are gardeners and you like being in the garden, but it's, you know, we need to trust the farmers, and they're the ones who are really dealing with the effects of climate change on the front lines. So you know, we want to trust their expertise, but also work with them to, you know, improve their farming as well, and make sure it's as sustainable as possible. On the packaging front, I can have a look into that, but it should be, hopefully it should be recyclable. But if not, then yeah, I can flag that with the team. Yeah, hopefully that's okay.
I could show you the packet if you like, but
well, Malcolm, time is against us.
I understand.
But and I think the point has been made and heard. I know that that's something the group takes incredibly seriously, as do many of the cooperative retail societies around the country. I'll be looking forward to meeting with others at retail conference, where I know this will be a hot topic of conversation, and I'll be looking forward to hearing where the group goes next in their quest, as all is set out already this evening. So thanks, Malcolm. Rita, you're on the wire, Rita. You really are. I want to bring you in, Rita. I want to make sure that all members and supporters have got as much opportunity to say their piece as possible. I know that Izzy is messaging me saying, "No, come on, we said an hour." But Rita, at the last moment, over to yourself very quickly. Rita, if you want to unmute and come on in, this is the moment to do so.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Right, I just want to say that I come from Chorlton in South Manchester. We've done fair trade support for years and years. We've done stalls and everything, but we do think that the promotion material is not as good as it used to be. The posters aren't as large. We have fewer stickers. So we would prefer the promotional material to be stronger, please. We have to go to fair trade to get our promotional material, because the co-op, we just got one sheet of stickers and one A3 poster. Sorry to be critical, because I admire them terrifically, but please give us better promotional materials.
Look, thank you, Rita. I think that it's fantastic that the group and others do produce the promotional materials, and I think that there's a role for the party as well. I think we should be doing more in that area, and that's something that I'll be reflecting on for next Fairtrade Fortnight as well. And you're right, the Fairtrade Foundation do a fantastic job as well, and I think some of the colours and some of the vibrancy of their materials really does stand out at the stalls and at the events that these are used on. I mean, I was just looking in the chat there, and there's a co-op group pioneers and members will be in High Heaton in Newcastle tomorrow between 2 and 5 if you are in the northeast. I know that they're using those materials. I know that we'll always be looking for improvement as well. So Rita, thanks for all the promotion of fair trade that you do, and I know that the party, the group, our societies and Fairtrade Foundation will do everything we can to make sure that you have the materials. Do get in touch with the in your case the Manchester Party. Ask what the party can provide for you as well, because I want that challenge coming back up into the National Party. Make sure that we're doing all we can to support yourself and your campaigns as well. So hopefully that is some succor, and I know that Orla will have heard the contribution as well in terms of where the group's up to. But we've come to the end. We've come to the end. Regrettably, it's been a just 1 hour session. I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. I think that Orla, you've covered an awful lot of ground for us as well. It's been a real insight into the work of the group, a real insight into the importance of fair trade as well. I said right at the start that I think that the time is coming for us to be even more vociferous in our support. I think the time is now not just for Fortnight, not just for this period of time, but much more. You talked about the need for our politicians to step up to the plate as well. And I think that's a real challenge to ourselves in the Co-operative Party. We're nearly 1,000 elected representatives right around the country. We're represented on nearly 75% of all UK councils. We've got big groups in all of the parliaments around the country. I think that there's a fair challenge to us as Co-op Party members, fair challenge to myself as the General Secretary of the party, to make sure that we have 1,000 champions for fair trade to start with. I think that's where we've got to be. I think we have a responsibility to those who have championed it, like Rita, over many years, but also that responsibility for those who come after us, who need the proliferation and the support of fair trade into the future like never before. So thank you very much, Orla, for joining us today. Thank you all for coming to this Corporation Live event. Do have a look at the YouTube channel for all of the different types of content and events that we have. Thanks to Izzy and the team who do such a good job of pulling us all together so that we can share our views, share our understanding, and make sure the cooperative movement is moving forward. So thanks for that. Enjoy the rest of the evening and look forward to seeing you at a Corporation Live coming up soon. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.